That footage ended up going to 50 Cent and his production company, and it's kind of the centerpiece.
Sold to them.
Yes, was the centerpiece of the documentary. So watch this particular scene, because this is where a lot of people feel Diddy really screwed over someone that he should be very...
It began as a whisper few wanted to believe, that the polished public breakup between Michael B. Jordan and Lori Harvey wasn't mutual at all, but an alleged hit job tied to Diddy. The rumor surfaced in Reddit threads and clubhouse rooms that often seemed to know too much, and the more people looked, the more it appeared to fit a familiar pattern, because recent months have suggested Diddy doesn't lose quietly. As his empire reportedly started to tremble under Cassie's lawsuit, whispers claimed his first move was to reach into his vault, allegedly filled with decades-old tapes, what some now call freak-off footage, material rumored to be powerful enough to derail careers.
Is 54 years old. Her mother is 5 years older.
Picture early 2022. Michael B. Jordan is on top of the world, riding the buzz of Creed 3 and stepping out of the Vanity Fair Oscars after-party with Lori Harvey on his arm, the kind of glossy, camera-ready power couple Hollywood loves. Then suddenly, everything goes quiet. Lori deletes every trace of him from her socials. Michael scrubs his page like the relationship never existed. They unfollow each other within days, and Steve Harvey fuels the mystery with cryptic comments about being Team Lori, 1000%. At the time, it was dismissed as another clean celebrity split. Different goals, different paths. But now insiders claim there was more behind the polished PR story. An alleged private message from Diddy that changed everything overnight. According to these claims, Diddy sent Michael a graphic, humiliating tape, impossible to unsee, purportedly involving Lori from an earlier period when she was said to be part of his inner circle, not as an act of jealousy, but as a warning. If true, the message wasn't about romance at all. It was about control.
Criminal trial, which has him sitting in prison right now. But it has to do with something that happened right before he got arrested. If you've seen the Netflix documentary about Diddy, Diddy The Reckoning, which 50 Cent produced, there's some footage there that had never been seen before. This is a photographer that Diddy hired to follow him around.
According to whispers said to be circulating even within Diddy's own camp, he allegedly believed Michael had gotten too close to Cassie years earlier, back when she was trying to break free. And with the FBI reportedly closing in, Cassie preparing to testify, and much of Hollywood distancing itself, the question became whether Diddy wanted to make sure no one from his past found their courage now. He was long rumored to rule through leverage, properties, money, favors, and most disturbingly, recorded footage, claims echoed by former bodyguards, assistants, and artists who've said he documented everything. In Michael's case, insiders allege that vault was used like a weapon, with a tape involving Lori from one of Diddy's so-called freak-off sessions allegedly sent directly to her new boyfriend. People who spotted Michael courtside days later said he looked hollow, not heartbroken but haunted. Those NBA Finals photos where everyone else is smiling while he stares into nothing. Just weeks earlier he'd been posting about love and growth, and fans assumed he was simply dealing with a breakup, but those close to him say something shifted that night. His silence, they claim, wasn't about moving on. It was about self-preservation, because once you're pulled into Diddy's web, you don't speak unless you're ready for your own secrets to surface.
Assault allegations. The LA Sheriff's Department says that it's investigating a report from an alleged victim in Florida. That alleged victim has identified himself as music producer Jonathan Hay in social media posts that have since been removed. A spokesperson for Combs has not responded to ABC News requests.
And this is where the story turns even darker, because insiders insist that the alleged tape wasn't some random act of revenge, but footage dating back to 2019, around the time Lori was reportedly close to Diddy after Kim Porter's tragic passing. To the public, it looked like an innocent friendship. Lori spotted with him in New York, Miami, Cabo, and even Italy, where photos showed her dining with Diddy alongside Steve and Marjorie Harvey, all smiles. Other images raised eyebrows, with Diddy seen rubbing her stomach and leaning in to whisper, sparking pregnancy rumors that Lori quickly shut down, telling critics to stop believing everything they read on blogs. At the time, those moments were brushed off, but viewed now, amid allegations tearing through Diddy's empire, the body language and timing feel far more unsettling. What's being whispered now is that the Harveys may have known more than they ever admitted. Steve had been friendly with Diddy for years, long before Lori was famous, and even shared meals with him during that Italy trip. Fans questioned his silence back then, wondering why a father would stay quiet about his 22-year-old daughter being linked to a 49-year-old mogul with a controversial reputation. But Steve deflected, focusing on his career and family. According to people close to that circle, the Harvey's silence wasn't rooted in ignorance. It was driven by fear.
So you're not allowed, they don't want you to say nothing about what's really going on.
Jaguar Wright, who's been calling out the industry all year, put it bluntly, claiming the Harveys knew exactly what was happening, saying, "You don't sit at that table and not know," and accusing them of playing the same Hollywood game as everyone else. Look away, protect the brand, keep the checks coming. It's a harsh charge, but it raises uncomfortable questions, especially given that Steve Harvey's empire is built on morality, family values, relationship advice, and public sermons about faith and loyalty. What happens if it ever emerged that while he was preaching respect, his daughter was allegedly being filmed in Diddy's sessions? Or if whispers of a quiet settlement or a managed pregnancy prove true? That wouldn't be a simple scandal. It would be empire-ending. All of this, insiders point out, was happening before Cassie's lawsuit, back when Diddy still appeared untouchable, hosting his iconic white parties, flaunting his influence, and holding court courtside, even as cracks were already forming beneath the surface. Former artists were hinting at dark rooms, unsettling experiences, and cryptic emails referencing sacrifices. And when Day 26 spoke publicly this year about a disturbing message they received, those comments suddenly aligned with years of similar claims, that those parties weren't just parties, but environments where people were filmed, manipulated, and controlled through footage they didn't even know existed. So, if Diddy truly had compromising material involving Lori, and if his ex Gina's claim that she saw explicit photos of them on his phone is accurate, then in that alleged mindset, sending a tape to Michael would fit perfectly within Diddy's calculated logic of control.
Talk about the filth that's starting to come out in the early days of the Diddy trial. This, of course, is P. Diddy. Surprise, surprise, he's a creep. Surprise, surprise, he's done.
It wasn't just about destroying a relationship. It was about reminding everyone watching that he still had power, projecting the message that you can't erase him because he owns people's secrets, an image he allegedly wants to maintain even now from a Brooklyn jail cell. That's the nightmare Michael walked into. He didn't just lose a girlfriend. He was pulled into someone else's cleanup operation, thinking he was dating America's sweetheart, the woman who helped soften his image after years of criticism, only to find himself entangled in a web of alleged blackmail and enforced silence. Once it hit, the Harveys reportedly moved fast into PR mode. Lori wiped him from her socials, Steve delivered his motivational, make things happen rhetoric, and within hours the narrative was sealed. Young love, mutual respect, time to move on. Meanwhile, insiders claimed the real story was buried behind NDAs and a video no one was meant to see. People close to Michael say the experience changed him, that the man who once lit up interviews went quiet, stopped smiling, and kept his head down. Even his later SNL monologue, where he joked about his first public breakup and learning a new language while already in Creed shape, lands differently in hindsight, with a tension beneath the laughter that suggests he was masking a memory that still hurt. And that's where the story circles back to the broader unraveling tied to Diddy's alleged downfall.
Now there's an added element to this, an added element of drama. Diddy is going to speak. He has some things he wants to say to the judge, to the court, and he has actually filed a request with the judge that he can wear street clothes instead of his prison jumpsuit because he wants to look good.
Now that Cassie's case has cracked the door open, the panic around Diddy has reportedly spread fast. Artists lawyering up, former staff cooperating, and whispers that Michael's name has surfaced more than once, not as an accuser but as someone who could corroborate timelines Diddy allegedly wants buried. That's why the freak-off tape theory landed so hard for so many people. It wasn't seen as random gossip, but as leverage deployed at exactly the right moment to keep another major Hollywood figure quiet. In that light, Steve Harvey's silence back in 2019 feels almost prophetic. When fans questioned why he seemed unfazed by the optics around Lori, he brushed it off, perhaps to protect her, perhaps to protect himself. Because beneath the wholesome family brand is a man who's weathered lawsuits, scandals, and accusations that suggest he understands better than most how devastating one leaked video can be. Meanwhile, Lori appears untouched by the fallout. New relationship, new deals, and a public push to be known for her accomplishments rather than who she dates, which is savvy, strategic distance, but the timing of her reemergence as Diddy's empire unravels has raised eyebrows. Insiders now claim she's deeply worried her name could surface in federal filings tied to the case, that somewhere on one of the seized drives there may be an image or clip that pulls her back into a story she's been trying hard to leave behind.
Ponderance of the evidence, or in more layman's terms, more likely than not, the measurement we as attorneys typically use for that is 51%. And so for a civil case, you're just saying, hey, is there a 51% chance that Sean Combs allegedly committed these acts? If so, he would be liable. In the federal case, which was criminal, that was proof beyond a reasonable doubt, where he was found guilty of those 2 counts you mentioned earlier, and is serving a 50-month sentence.
So where does that leave Michael? That's the million-dollar question. Some believe he's sitting on evidence, waiting for the right moment, while others think he wants to forget it all, but people close to him say he hasn't done either. Instead, he's quietly aligning with those who want to dismantle the system, not out of revenge but self-preservation, because if he ever confirms that Diddy allegedly sent him that footage, it wouldn't just implicate Diddy, it would expose everyone who stayed silent, from the Harveys to the handlers to the A-listers who looked the other way. That's why there are rumblings of a much bigger story on the horizon. One that links Cassie, Lori, and the vault, because if the so-called freak-off tapes exist, and the raids on Diddy's properties suggest they might, then everyone who appeared in them becomes a potential witness. Some are terrified, some are furious, and some, like Michael, may feel they have nothing left to lose. In this industry, silence is survival until it suddenly isn't. And as the walls close in on Diddy, many are realizing that protecting him may have been their worst mistake, because if and when that footage surfaces, every smile, every red carpet appearance, and every mutual breakup will look like part of a cover-up. And that's why the unanswered question keeps hanging in the air. What did Michael B. Jordan really see that night? Because understanding that may explain why no one, not Lori, not Steve, not even one of Hollywood's most bankable stars, has dared to speak, and why Diddy's empire may not be the only one about to fall.
Interestingly, we haven't seen the indictments yet. There's been some time lag. I suppose it will take some time to go through all the forensic.
And here's what still doesn't add up. If Diddy was truly trying to protect himself, why risk leaking something that could also drag him down? That's when the narrative shifted from jealousy to leverage, a warning shot disguised as humiliation. Former insiders say Diddy was panicking as Cassie's lawsuit loomed, acutely aware of who had seen what, who could testify, and which pieces of footage might corroborate her story. So sending that tape to Michael allegedly wasn't about heartbreak at all, but about sending a message to anyone considering speaking up. Stay quiet or watch your world burn. It's the same playbook people claim he's used for decades. Control through fear, exposure as the ultimate leash. And what's striking is how quickly everyone around that triangle, Lori, Michael, and even Steve, closed ranks in total silence. No vague posts, no messy leaks, not even a denial, which is rare in Hollywood, where most stars will write an essay just to explain and unfollow. Insiders began whispering that something far heavier was being managed behind the scenes, like an emergency cleanup ordered by people with money and motive to keep things buried, with calls allegedly going out fast to lock archives, secure devices, and wrap everyone in ironclad NDAs, because once a video enters Diddy's ecosystem, it never truly disappears. That's why old whispers about Lori's situation in 2019 have resurfaced. The Cabo photos of Diddy rubbing her stomach, the half-smile that looked more protective than romantic, dismissed at the time as pregnancy gossip, but now viewed differently given the pattern of control and quiet resolutions. The timing raises questions too. Months later, Lori reappeared seemingly untouched, glowing, jet-setting, with no scandal, no lifestyle disruption, and her name abruptly severed from Diddy's, as if someone had wiped the slate clean. Some insiders insist that was the moment a deal was struck. Hushed money, erased footage, and one bulletproof NDA.
Oh, God, this homes.
And if any of that is true, Steve Harvey's long silence suddenly makes sense, because a man who built an empire on morality, fatherly wisdom, and relationship advice could never afford his name brushing up against Diddy's world of private tapes and freak-off allegations. Jaguar Wright has been the loudest voice pushing that theory, openly accusing the Harvey family of knowing exactly what kind of environment Lori was stepping into and being complicit by looking the other way. A claim the internet latched onto because the math never added up. How does a father famous for preaching standards casually accept his young daughter dating his much older industry friend? As people dug deeper, the coincidences grew darker, with former Diddy associates like Day 26, Aubrey O'Day, and Don Richard describing stories that sound nightmarish. Hidden cameras, cryptic messages, and blackmail masked as mentorship, including claims of emails referencing sacrifices, and accounts of waking up in rooms filled with cameras. The pattern that emerges, record, control, exploit, discard, makes rumors of a tape involving Lori feel less far-fetched, and more like a continuation of a system now collapsing under its own secrets. What caught many off guard was how dramatically Michael B. Jordan seemed to change afterward, shifting from Hollywood's golden boy to someone visibly withdrawn, his courtside appearances marked by frozen smiles and hollow stares that felt deeper than simple heartbreak, as if he were carrying a secret that reshaped how he viewed fame, loyalty, and power. If he truly saw that footage, it wouldn't just be about a relationship ending, but about witnessing firsthand how powerful men weaponize privacy, a theme echoed chillingly in Cassie's lawsuit, where she described Diddy forcing her to relive recorded moments to remind her he controlled every part of her. The difference is that Michael isn't a dependent protege. He's an A-list actor with his own leverage, which makes him unpredictable.
The feeling that I have about the documentary, man, it was just old news, and they took a couple of with the footage from Puff from the days that's leading up him to get arrested, and the incidents with the people from the courts, you know, the two people from the courts. So it was nothing new.
There's also the uncomfortable timeline overlap that few want to acknowledge. Cassie, Lori, and Michael all orbiting the same man's world within a few short years. Same parties, same cities, even the same photographers. And insiders say it's no coincidence, but a map of who mattered to Diddy, who could be used, and who needed to be silenced. Some claim Diddy kept tabs on Michael even after the breakup, monitoring him through mutual acquaintances, which is why that so-called amicable split may have been anything but mutual. It was damage control. The pattern is familiar. Isolate, intimidate, manipulate. Cassie's lawyers described a loyalty network so deep it blurred friendship and fear. And even now former associates are erasing photos and deleting mentions of closeness. Yet Michael's name rarely appears in those circles, almost as if he's been deliberately protected or hidden, because if he speaks, it wouldn't just implicate one man. It could take down everyone who enabled him. The recent flood of documentaries, the Channel 4 Expose, 50 Cent's Netflix doc, the Hulu Deep Dive, noticeably skip over the Harvey connection, as if instructed what not to touch. And insiders suggest that Diddy's leverage over them is why none of the family has been subpoenaed despite Lori being among the last major public figures linked to him before the raids. Meanwhile, people close to Michael say he's furious at the narrative flip, painted as the distant boyfriend while the real story was buried under PR spin, and that he's quietly keeping texts, timelines, and perhaps even voice memos, with rumors that he may one day release a documentary of his own. Not naming names, but exposing Hollywood's obsession with image and enforced silence. A move that could shake the industry from within, because it's the silence that keeps haunting everyone involved.
What's really going to be interesting is the parade of celebrities who we expect to be mentioned and or called into that courtroom. You know, people who we hadn't heard about prior, like Mike Myers, you know, Austin Powers, Mike Myers. Why is he getting called? Why is he on the witness list? That'll be fascinating. And then, of course, there are the no-name, quote unquote, women who are going to have to find every ounce of courage they have.
The way Steve smiles through interviews, as if none of this touches him, the way Diddy's lawyers dismiss every allegation as a media circus. The same circus now filled with over 100 accusers, former employees, artists, and assistants claiming they saw too much. Yet almost no one mentions Lori or Michael, as if that file is locked away under a separate code name, almost as if the real story hasn't even begun. And maybe that's the point. This saga, the breakup, the alleged tape, the precise timing, was never just about a relationship. It was about control. Diddy allegedly controlled Cassie through